Hey guys, well, welcome back to this week's episode of the American Landman. I got Lucy with me today, and we're out looking at a brand new property. Come on, baby. Come on. Oh, here you go. Lucy's a little stiff, as you can see. She's limping a little bit. Been walking so many properties. But hey, today we're on a brand new property. This is the Pepin County. We're going to call it the Pepin County 140 for right now. A beautiful bluff top property with a little bit of food plot here, some ag behind the camera, a long stretch of bluff top hardwoods, and then some river frontage on the Chippewa River down below. So I'm going to take you through this property. We're going to talk about kind of the features and the benefits and all the things that I see about this property. You're going to get to explore it with me a little bit as I photograph and drone it. So let's get to it. You've been watching The American Landman. Okay, well, we're just checking out the ag damage here. There's not a cob of corn on this small food plot. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about that, but I want to talk a little bit about the process of breaking down these properties and how I do it and what I look for, and then how I end up coming up with a price. So at this point, I'm still in a little bit of negotiations with this owner, and we're going to call this the Pepin County 140. I think that's right about where we're going to be. But when I came out to this property and got this call, I knew it was very interesting because the gentleman that owns this property owns quite a bit of this river frontage along the river, up on the bluff here where we're at. The river's down below in the valley. And this is some really unique country up here. Pepin County as a county in a whole is very difficult to acquire. Not a lot of property turns over, and if you watch the listings like I do up and down the valley here, you know that. There's just not a lot of property that comes out for sale. Pepin County is a pretty small county. There's not a lot of population. It's maybe an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes from the Twin Cities. It's kind of got a lot of idyllic little farms, hills, valleys, that coulee hardwood country, and it's fantastic hunting. So if you can get property here, it's very coveted and it doesn't change hands. I'm going to break this property a couple different ways. It's got some hardwood timber, of course, a big long stretch of timber on top of the ridge. What I really like about that is there's some trails going through here because he's done a little logging. There's top access where we're at now, and there's low access down in the river bottom. So there's two sides access. That's always very favorable when you're hunting a property or you're looking for a property to hunt, because you have multiple points of access, multiple winds. Doesn't matter which way they're coming, you're going to be able to get in there. Secondly, these ridgetop views, the hardwoods down on the end of this bluff here, has some beautiful views of the Chippewa River. So there's a potential for building, and along top here, if you were to develop this and put a road along the top, anyways, you put a road here, you'd actually have access. You have multiple building spots if you decided to subdivide this, and that's a potential here that we're not really going to account for on the price, but I think it's here, and it's something that a buyer could definitely look into. Then there's the bottomland. Well, the bottomland along the river, there's quite a bit of it, and that's a rarity in itself. Any property that I list that has a lot of river frontage always lends itself to a very favorable sale, and you get a little bump in the price. I think we're going to come in at about $5,300 an acre on this, with the average sale price of the comps that I found in this area being around $4,900 an acre. The reason I feel that this property gets a little bump in value is because there's so much going on. You got the top access, you got a little bit of ag field, you got ag field down below, you got a lot of river frontage, and that lends itself to a really nice property. Then you added in the fact that there's another water source on, and that is Plum Creek. Plum Creek runs down the southern side of this property, and it's a class 1 trout stream. Browns and mainly browns, I think, are in that, and it's a nice stream. Anytime you have flowing streams, I tell you what, a lot of people like those properties. They want to acquire them, especially if you can build on it. But this property has lots of things going on: river frontage, creek frontage, a little agriculture, and hardwood timber with a food plot behind me. So let's get out there in the woods. We'll walk through it. We'll take a look. I'll make some comments along the way. And if you're interested in looking at this property, obviously call me up and we'll take a look. You know, one thing I've noticed in this corn food plot here is what I'm going to call it. There's not a stalk that has a corn cob anywhere on these. It is completely annihilated. It never even made it to the hunting season. So that tells me, just by the amount of food that's here, which is probably roughly an acre, not a stalk has a cob of corn, that we probably have a pretty decent deer population, and we're probably going to have to plant more food up here. So that's something just to make note when you're looking at these properties. Look at the browse lines of the trees. Look at the food plots or the corn that are here. Is there just a couple of rows in that are chewed up and eaten, or is the entire field like this? The plate is clean. There's not an ounce of food here. So that tells you a little bit about the deer population, and if you're going to have any success with food plots, and it's something that you want to take into consideration. Now here's a attempt by this hunter to add a little food out here, and this is a brassica plot here with purple top turnips. These could be high volume plantings, which can really help your deer if you're thinking about buying a property for deer hunting. And what he's done here is he's got kind of a fence of corn around here with a secluded turnip patch in the middle. But what he probably should have done is came in here and overseed this, because as you can see, it's kind of sparse. He's getting some volume in here, and the turnips are growing, and there's some attraction now. But as soon as the temperature drops and these get more palatable to the deer, there's not a lot of food here. But they've done an attempt here to add a little value to this property. At least it's great for photography, and it kind of shows you, what a property can produce. So having food plots on your property, if you're selling it, is a plus. It just helps you showcase the property's value. Now this property happens to be in the MFL closed. I think he just re-entered it, starting over on a new plan, I believe. But the benefit of these types of properties on the MFL plans, what you see here, they've come in here and they've created a really nice trail system. There's one here and there's one there, and hopefully it goes in and comes back out. That lends itself to access, ingress, egress, for either just enjoyment, for walking around, or for hunting purposes, because you want to be able to get in and out of your property. Especially post-cut like here, because there's extremely thick habitat here. A lot of woody browse, there's brambles, there's goldenrod, which during the summer can be great high protein food. It becomes less palatable now, but a lot of woody browse in here, and that's what's supporting your deer herd. So I'm betting that during the winter season, this probably holds a lot of deer, which accounts for why that food plot, that corn plot, was just annihilated. There's just a ton of habitat in here. So MFL properties can be good and bad, and I know it turns off some of the people that buy these properties from me, but if they're managed well, it actually helps the hunting. It just looks really bad until you get used to it in your mind, or you realize, am I growing trees or am I growing deer? Because you can't really do both well. That says a lot of habitat, great holding power, and honestly, I think it enhances the property if you're a hunter. If you're a builder, or maybe somebody wants to have a home, this might not find this as attractive, because folks that are that minded by are typically like park-like experience. They want tall, beautiful trees, but there's no understory, therefore there's no food. It's a biological desert. So when you look at these properties, you just kind of have to, decide what it is that you're looking for and make sure you're buying what you want. So here's an example of some old growth timber, and you can see the difference from what I just showed you to this. There's virtually no understory in here. There's no food here. These deer live at, lip high, nose high. Anything from there down, that's their food source. And there's a lot of groceries in the other area, but there's not much groceries here. And I gotta tell you, I know you can't smell it because you're on TV, but I can smell that earth smell, and I just love it. It's a great time of the year. But the benefit of these MFL plans is that they've come in here and they thin it out. So you got these thin areas with a lot of understory, and then you got more open areas that are more mature, and that's the diversity that you want. So when you're out looking at managed forest law program properties, look for this. Look for these pockets, more mature, more open, followed by thick areas, because if you're just a nature enjoyer or a walker or a hunter, you want this diversity. That's what you're looking for. It lends itself to a lot of wildlife, and this actually looks pretty good. I like actually what I'm seeing here. So Lucy and I came down to this secondary bench, and I talk about this a lot about biomes, and I walked into a pine biome. This little pine plantation right here. and it's on a secondary bench right over the ag fields below. And the reason that this caught my attention is because not only was it a biome change, and we talk about this a lot, how animals like edge, especially whitetails like edge. So when you're scouting these properties, you want to look for those differentiating edges. And in a big woods, it can be real subtle, like species changes. So I'm in an area here. These are white pine, and this is a little bench here that's flattened off, and you can see how it's opened up here. And I thought, well, this would probably be a pretty good place to maybe have a transition point where these deer would be using this bench, and maybe even a hunting location. And every time I say that, there you go. The guy had the same idea. So, you know, hunters think alike, and he's right. I see a nice trail going through here. It's not super defined, but I'm also seeing some rub activities. And what we've got here is a couple things. We got a bench that is creating a flat spot for them to bed and travel. We have a biome change with an edge right here where it goes from hardwood, it flattens off into a bench and then drops down to the ag. So that area right there has these pine species. So it's a great corridor. And also the farm field is right down below me here. That's food right there. So those deer are coming in, or the hunter actually is coming in, jumping up in his stand. This property lends itself well to hunting. I like the access, multiple points, and whoever this hunter is, kudos to you because you're doing it right. Well, I'm actually pretty impressed by the quality of the timber here. There's some benches, some high spots, great access, and as you can see, it's a pretty good timber in here. Come on, Lucy. Lucy's having a good time running around with me in here. Man, I could see myself sit in here doing some bow hunting because this is a fantastic funnel. Food below, food up top, long funnel, easy access, a lot going on. So that's enough of the timber. You can hear Lucy in the background. Sounds like a deer coming. I'm going to take you down now towards the river part of the property. We'll take a look at that, and it's got a lot of river frontage. It's a good looking property. Let's go. Come on, Luce. Okay, now we're on the river portion of the property. I would say close to a quarter mile, if not a half mile of frontage all up and down the Chippewa River. And this is just a great river with a storied history here in Wisconsin. At one point, if you could imagine, millions of board feet of pine have been floated down this river. The lumberjack would put these logs in the river in the spring, and they'd float them down to the mills in Eau Claire and down the Mississippi. At one point, imagine huge log jams just floating by with men with the PVs standing on these logs. Just a great history. Another thing about this property is that somewhere down here was an old Indian trail, and if you look back at some of the old early maps, and maybe I can even put a link up here, they actually show the trails that come down the river that are now probably the roads, and they would end down here somewhere because there was natural springs. And an interesting note that the owner of this property told me was that if you looked at the cities along these rivers, they were spaced out about 7 miles apart roughly, because that's about the distance that somebody could come on foot and travel and have to stop for the night or get water or whatever. So it's very interesting how they spaced out these cities. Imagine people on foot coming up and down and maybe out in the river canoeing or floating along the logs down the river. Another interesting note about this area is on the other side of the river, this is the Tiffany Wildlife Management Area. I think it's about 14,000 square acres of timber, wildlife, bottom, extremely thick, nasty, and it grows some massive deer in the Pepin, Buffalo County areas of Wisconsin. You know what we produce here. We produce Boone and Crockett quality deer. That's right along the river, and this river is fairly shallow. These deer are definitely moving across here because I'm finding access trails where they're coming across the river and coming into the property. So this area here could be used for a lot of things. It could be recreated. You could recreate on this with just fishing, canoeing, boating. You could maybe access the Tiffany bottoms, or as before, behind the camera here, this was an area that was an area where they would bring their campers down and enjoy it. Go swimming? Well, this is Plum Creek, and I talked about how the trails back in the 1840s, they started recording the townships in the 40s, and there was a trail that came through this river, along the river, and it came to Plum Creek. This is one of the watering spots that they used to come to. And you can imagine what this looked like. I mean, this is a beautiful bottom country. It was wild and untamed and so much deer habitat. There was fresh water, there was fishing, a lot of big game, just a beautiful area. This property has a lot going on, and this is, I honestly think, one of the highlights of the whole property. Plum Creek is a Class 1 stream. You've got the river behind me, you've got ag here, you got river bottom habitat over on this side. What a great confluence of a lot of habitat, and that's what lends value to these properties. When you can have all these things, I talk about this quite a bit, a trifecta. You got farm fields, you've got water and river, you got river bottom timber, that trifecta effect. Deer and animals tend to congregate there, and this property has a lot. I tell you what, you just don't see properties like this very often, that's for sure. Ready? Here we go. Go get it. Woo! She'll do this all day long. Can you tell this is her happy spot? Come on, baby. Good girl. Good girl. Oh, yeah. Okay, you got to drop it. You got to get it. Ready? Here we go. Good girl. Come on. Not only does she smell better, but I don't have the heart to leave her home. She has so much fun. Good girl. Was that fun? Was that fun? You got to give it. Drop it. Well, here's a really nice feature. This is a snowmobile bridge going across the Plum Creek here. And this is a public snowmobile trail that goes through the property, or at least on the edge of the property. We got Twisted Sister Saloon up on the hill, so if you like to stop in and wet your whistle, or maybe just want to come and swim and utilize it. But this is on the property. It's just a very cool feature. Okay, we made it to the scenic overlook, and he was nice enough to mow a trail all the way in here, but wait till you see this view. This is where somebody might want to consider building a home, because it'd be hard to beat this view here. We're probably, I think elevation wise, we're about 80 feet above the river, but check this out. There's the money shot. That is hard to beat. Okay, well, let's go ahead and end this video. What a beautiful property. It's got so much diversity. It's got this beautiful view here. I can see Plum Creek below me, the Chippewa River behind me, some beautiful ag fields, and I got timber. And we're up on a bluff that's probably 80 feet tall, but there's a lot of things going on in this property that I like. And you know, Pepin County is a really coveted county. I think this the creek bottom is going to appeal to a lot of people because of the trout fishing. Definitely the river frontage with the summer opportunities to come down there, maybe put a camper down there. And I could see transforming this a little bit into a hunting property as well, because these bottom areas, they're thick, they're a great bedding area, and there's some pretty good fields down there that on a good year, on a normal year, you're gonna be able to put corn down there. So, hey folks, I hope you've enjoyed that tour. I'll hopefully get this up on my website soon. This is one of the benefits that I get to come out in all these properties with my buddy Lucy, and I couldn't leave her home even though I got a new truck. So we're gonna sign off. Hey guys, if you're looking for property in Western Wisconsin, I'd like to be your guy in the land business. I'm getting messages from folks all across the country that are watching my videos, that are benefiting from them. And sometimes, you know, it's kind of just exploration and enjoyment, but this property is going to be for sale. You're going to be able to find it on my website. If you're interested, check it out. And as always, guys, hit that subscribe button down there. I spoke to some people this week that watch these videos because I posted my Facebook page, but they haven't subscribed. Please subscribe. It helps me grow the channel. The algorithms pick it up. And if you hit the notification button, you'll be sure to get notified when I post a new video. On behalf of Lucy, the Land Lab, I'm Neil Hogger. I'm a land specialist with Whitetail Properties Real Estate, and you've been watching The American Landman. What do you think of that, Lucy? That is for you, huh? That's beautiful, isn't it?